This video, we're going to talk about 1.4 Objective 1, where we define concepts related to critical evaluation of statistical studies. Let's go ahead and get started. I'll briefly describe the 8 guidelines for critically evaluating a statistical study. So, number 1 is get a big picture view of the study. And it says, for example, you should understand the goal of the study, the population that was under study, and whether the study was observational or an experiment. Step 2 is to consider the source. So that is here. And they say there in particular, look for any potential biases on the part of the researchers. Number 3 is to look for bias in the sample. That's over here. And it says that is decide whether the sampling method was likely to produce a representative sample or not. Step 4 is to look for problems defining or measuring the variables of intent. So right here, and they say ambiguity in the variables can make it difficult to interpret reported results. Number 5 is beware of confounding variables. So we've talked about confounding quite a bit already in the recent topics. And that says if the study neglected potential confounding variables, its results may not be valid. Step 6, consider the setting and wording in surveys. So it says in particular, look for anything that might tend to produce inaccurate or dishonest responses, or even the way the question is worded and set up that might encourage people to respond a particular way. If you had asked or framed the question in a different way, might you get people to respond in a different way because of the way in which you worded the question? So number 7 is check that results are presented fairly. I guess that's more I was just talking about, but so for example, check whether the study really supports the conclusions that are presented in the media. And then 8, stand back and consider the conclusions. So, and they tell us here, for example, evaluate whether the study achieved its goals. If so, do the conclusions make sense and have practical significance? Okay, so now that we've talked about all that, let's ask the question about what is peer review and how is it useful? We talk about peer-reviewed studies a lot in, say, academic journals and things like that. So what does it mean for something to be peer-reviewed? So choose the correct answer below. Peer review is having experiments in a field, experts in a field evaluate a research report before it is published. This lends credibility because it implies that other experts agree that the study was carried out properly. We'll see this a lot, like I said, in academic journals, medical journals, other such publications where people want to have their research published, that before the journal of, say, the Journal of Medicine will publish something or something along those lines, and it'll be peer reviewed by other experts in the field. So describe and contrast selection bias and participation bias in sampling. So selection bias occurs whenever the researchers select their sample in a biased way. And participation bias occurs anytime participation in a study is voluntary. So there we go. So example of participation bias, we talked about this a while ago, but if I told people to fill out a questionnaire that was in my newspaper or magazine and mail it back to me, that there would be a participation bias there because that's something that takes effort for them to do, and they're not going to participate in something like that and put their time into it unless they have really strong opinions on the issue one way or the other. You're not going to get people that are middle of the road lots of times. So anyways, that's uh, that's that. We'll come back next time and talk about 1.4 objective 2. See you for the next video.